Hey, this is Ree here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot. And thank you so much for checking out my website, paradoxastrology.com. I am a professional astrologer. I can help you with anything. And right now until the holidays, have $40 off for an hour-long consultation. So hit me up and I can help you out. Okay, let's get into this video. So I have been following NASA's Artemis rocket launch since they've been doing it this year. You could go check out my other video that I did about this, the first launch, and how it was perfectly set up in the timing, which had to do a lot with sacrifice. And you can check that out. That video out is called Artemis. It's on my channel, but I'm going to talk about why, because I'm looking at the launch dates and I'm bringing up the chart and to see what we can learn from it. And why are they doing it on these certain days? Why are they doing it at specific times? What does it mean? Because once we cast a chart for specific times, that's the same reason why we can look at your chart and realize who you are by looking at that exact time you were born. Or a company, I can look at the chart of company and we can figure out how that company is going to do, when it's going to go, if it's going to go bankrupt, when, or if it's going to do well. And that's all based on the time. And so based on the chart, we can look at and see what is the actual mission for, because NASA is a complete fraud. NASA lies to us about everything and collects the money. And there's a lot of occultists that talk about that. Maybe I'll make a whole video about that one time. But let's look at the chart and see what it really means. I thought it was kind of interesting. So let's look at the main features of when it launched. So it actually launched on November 16th at 1:47 a.m. We're going to look at the moon, we're going to look at the sun, and we're going to look at the ascendant, just so that I don't make this video too long, because knowing me, I'll make a huge long video. But okay, so the sun was located at 29 degrees of Libra, right? So it's very important to look at the nakshatras. The sun is in Vishkara. What it means, it has a variety of meanings. Now, it can be forked branch going in two separate directions. It can also mean a poison vessel. So think about how the rocket is like a vessel. The symbol is decorated as an archway. They use it in India like an archway for marriages and for ceremonies, right? So this is kind of a ceremony of a type. It's also symbolic of a new beginning, because if you think of like a wedding, it's like a new beginning. It also means to triumph over enemies as well. Also always has an obsession of realizing a goal. That's why this nakshatra can turn very dark if you don't have a high level of consciousness. The ruling deity is the fire god. So if you think of a rocket, that makes sense. It also is associated with deceptiveness. Because of the deity Indra, which is represented there, it's the deity of fire. Like I said, he would put his loved ones in danger just to accomplish the goal. So he didn't have any regard for his loved ones. So we have to look at that as what they're doing, that this is not for the betterment of humanity, the way this is happening. So that's why these people can always have a feeling of being possessed almost, or you think this person is possessed, because they're almost willing to do anything to reach this goal. And you think that almost what they're doing doesn't have any integrity. It's almost not human-like. So a lot of people could accuse these people of being possessed. It usually is a troublemaker. This usually means it's something that doesn't function well in society, meaning like humanity. So it can be bandits, but it can be revolutionaries as well. Some could argue that what they're doing is revolutionary, but if you do the research, you're going to find out that it is on the bandit side. It's also longing for the unattainable. And I think that's pretty interesting, because they don't teach you about physical reality and how physical reality is, and that how you can't bring your body to space. And that's why it's kind of interesting that it says that, because this is not something that will be obtained. This is something that is using your money and using the funding for other purposes. It's good at hiding emotions and what the real goal is. And this is located in Pada 3. So in Pada 3, it shows us that this thing, this rocket or this mission has to do with, it promotes a selfishness and deception to people. So they're not telling us what they're really doing. An anxiety as well. This was trying to be launched many times, so I can see where the anxiety happened. It was late. It also has to do with the military, dangerous areas. So, rocket launch would be a dangerous area. It has to TV, radio, politics, that cults, ideological fanatics as well, and criminal mafia. So it's kind of showing us what's going on with NASA here. If this was something that was launching out of integrity, it would show us in the chart, is what I'm telling you. So another interesting part, the moon is in Ashlesha. Now, Ashlesha is associated with the serpent energy. If you look at NASA's symbol, it is the depiction of the serpent tongue. Why are they launching it when the moon is in Ashlesha? The moon is only in Ashlesha for roughly 24 hours, so it doesn't stay in there for long. This is all done purposely, by the way. This nakshatra is ruled by the serpent king or god, which is Ashlesha, which is also a picture of a coiled snake. Now, I'm going to put the picture up so you can see. This is the depiction of the nakshatra. We have the coiled snake, but we also have the moon. When they decided to launch this rocket, very interesting. This nakshatra is very secretive. It's like a snake, very secretive. People can say cold-blooded. People can say it's creepy, deceptive, insincere, all of those words, poisonous. This nakshatra is all the D words: diabolical, demon, danger, deception. Everything that you can think of corresponds to this nakshatra right here. Also, creatures who can access another world. I'm not trying to go too deep and lose people, but we can go very deep into how we're being used by other beings, essentially. It also has to do with reptilian brain. It's karma from past lives as well. Now, if you ever heard of people who listen to the occult, would probably heard of the Nagas. The Nagas are half serpent, half human. That's what this has to do with here, which is coincidentally who's running our system, who's governing our system right now. Also, it has to do with, like I was saying, the D words. Other D words is delusion, desperation, doctor. Notice how there's the symbol of the snake, or the medical symbol has the symbol of the snake. This is Ashlesha, doctors, deception. There were no doctors back in the day. There were healers and there were astrologers, but they didn't use that word. So it's activities that are hidden. So what we're seeing is about deception. What we're seeing is being hidden and has a different agenda, is what this is telling us. It also has to do with anything underground, because you think of like serpents, so coming from underground. This is where we've heard of like beings living underground who are reptilian and things like that. This is where this comes from too. It's also when the elites take meetings outside and in secret, that rules Ashlesha. That's the secret side that's wanting to control, and it's about oppressors and exploiters, people who are exploiting people. So I think we're kind of getting the theme here. The fourth pada is ruled by guru, related to illusions and moral struggle. At its peak, it's tricking others. It's usually tricking others rather than itself being deceived. It kind of sums up what's going on here. It's always everything that has to do with self-serving profession. It has to do with petro, which they use to go there, manipulators, politicians, agents. It's spies, it's false gurus, it's cult leaders, CIA, FBI, anything that has to do with deception. It's very rarely unselfish. It's good for scheming and plotting against enemies. Who is the enemy? The enemy must be us. Why is this showing up on a rocket? Now, anyone who has that placement, Ashlesha, you can overcome that, definitely. There are great people. I'm not saying everybody who has these nakshatras is like that. No, you can overcome it by having a very high level of consciousness, and that requires enlightenment, which is not going to be in the case of a business. It's not going to be in the case of NASA being enlightened and just want to help the world. It's not going to be in the case of a company that literally makes billions and billions of dollars. That's not going to be there. So that's why it's very important to look at this. So in summary, what does that mean? I was going to look at the ascendant too, but I think that's way too much. In summary, what does that mean? That means that it's interesting that it's related to the serpent, and that is the beings that are controlling this world. So everything is lining up and showing us that this is very deceptive. We have to start critically thinking about what's going on instead of just going with the narrative. And I think if we do that and we start exposing what we actually see, what's really going on, then the world can change. But we can't change what we are unable to see. So if we open up ourselves, we will be able to see the truth, and it's slowly coming out. This is why NASA and this is why the mainstream media pushes certain types of astrology. They don't mind if you use those astrologies. They don't mind. But that's why all the books of real astrology are hidden. All the books of the occult are hidden. That's why they allow astrology, like Western astrology, things like that, to prosper, because it's not telling you this deeper information, so they can't get caught on what they're doing. Astrology was changed for this reason. Yeah, that's just what I found. I hope you liked my video. I appreciate everyone watching, and I'll see you in the next video.